Well, absolutely. I completely agree with that contention.
At the very beginning of August, during a meeting devoted to the long-term preparations for the future accession, Princess Anne discovered that proposals she had never approved had somehow been passed, and that within them, the role of Queen Camilla was being steadily and inexplicably enlarged. What troubled Anne still more was that several advisors, men and women long known for their caution, had also begun to incline towards Camilla. Certain documents continued as a matter of routine to pass through the Queen's office before reaching Prince William, while the simplest questions about the origin of the alterations met only with vague replies. Anne had no wish to turn private suspicion into an open conflict within the royal family. Yet when she began her discreet inquiries, an aide unexpectedly revealed that he had once received instructions from Queen Camilla herself. Was Camilla truly seeking only to assist the royal family, or had Anne just uncovered a carefully prepared plan to retain influence in the reign to come? In early August, the corridors of the palace still carried the familiar subdued atmosphere of long-term planning. The royal family was entering a phase of preparation for the future. Confidential meetings concerning the internal arrangements surrounding Prince William's eventual accession were held regularly, kept strictly secret, and limited to a small circle of trusted individuals. Princess Anne, long regarded as the most practical and disciplined pillar of the family, sat in a small meeting room with a stack of documents before her. She was thoroughly familiar with every proposal concerning ceremony, the roles of family members, and the means of preserving the institution's stability across generations. This work was not new to her. Anne had witnessed many occasions when the royal family had to weigh tradition against change, and she had always been the one who held the line when things threatened to shift. But on that particular day, as she turned the pages, something clearly was not right. Certain passages had been altered. These were not the usual minor adjustments of wording or tone. The changes markedly increased the role of Queen Camilla throughout the entire planning process. Anne read them again more slowly. A growing sense of unease settled in her. She was not a woman easily unsettled, yet this felt different. The alterations had not come from her office, nor from the team working directly with William. They had appeared with a certain skillfulness enough to create the impression that everything had already been agreed. While she was still turning the matter over in her mind, a young aide from William's office entered the room, looking awkward and somewhat hurried. He stood a few paces from the desk and asked a question that brought Anne to a complete stop. "Ma'am, your office has already approved these revisions, has it not? We received confirmation to that effect." Anne looked at him, her gaze cold yet controlled. Her voice was brief, not raised yet sufficient to make the atmosphere in the room grow heavy. "I have never authorized any such changes. You may wish to check your source of information again." The reply sent the aide into immediate apologies, but the question itself was enough for Anne to understand that something was taking place beyond the usual bounds of control. This was no simple administrative error. Someone had created a chain of false confirmations sufficient to convince other parties that she had already consented. From that moment, Anne began to pay systematic attention. She did not react hastily or telephone anyone. Years of experience within the royal family had taught her that administrative irregularities were sometimes only the surface of a deeper problem. She watched the way documents moved between offices, noted the times of sending and receipt, and recorded the intermediaries who appeared in the chain. Her feelings at that time were of sharp vigilance mixed with a profound disappointment. Anne had always believed in order and responsibility. The fact that an important proposal had been altered without clear consensus made her feel as though the foundation of discipline was being undermined from within. She said nothing to anyone immediately. She simply observed in silence, knowing that acting too soon might create greater disorder, and that the royal family, already under considerable pressure, would be more easily placed at a disadvantage. That same night, Anne remained with the papers, but her mind had moved in a different direction. This time, the anomaly lay not only in the content of the revisions, but in the deliberate manner of their circulation. Someone wished to create the impression that Camilla was assuming a larger role and that Anne had accepted it. She felt the weight of responsibility upon her shoulders, not for personal honor, but for the stability of the next generation. William needed space to shape the future in his own way, free from improper influence. Anne resolved to watch more closely in the days ahead, gathering every small clue while maintaining absolute silence. In the days that followed her initial discovery, Princess Anne no longer merely examined each page of documents in a passive manner. She began to observe the entire chain of transmission. Many important files relating to Prince William's long-term plans passed through Queen Camilla's office before reaching him. Not all of them yet enough, and with sufficient regularity, that coincidence could no longer explain it. When those documents left Camilla's office, they often carried small but purposeful amendments enough to increase the weight of her views in the final proposals. Anne noted this without allowing any reaction to show outwardly. She understood well that within the royal family, excessive attention could itself become a signal that put the other party on guard. At the same time, the attitude of certain advisors began to shift. People previously known for their caution, who always examined matters thoroughly before taking any position, now inclined towards supporting proposals that bore Camilla's imprint, even though no formal decision had granted her any special authority in the planning of William's future. Anne listened to these remarks in closed meetings, her sense of discomfort growing clearer. She knew each of them well. They were not the sort easily swayed by empty words. That they had begun to lean in one direction without clear foundation made her realize that influence was being built systematically, not by command, but by gradual permeation. Anne sat alone after a long meeting, the afternoon light falling slantwise through the window. Her feelings then were of deep vigilance mixed with a heavy disappointment. She suspected that Camilla was step by step constructing a lasting role in William's plans. Not by open declaration or demand for title, but by inserting herself into the process so that her participation became the default. If left unchecked, that habit would harden into custom. William would then find it very difficult to remove Camilla without creating family conflict, and that conflict would be seen by the public as internal division. Anne had witnessed too many occasions when the royal family had been damaged by such matters. She did not wish history to repeat itself in a more subtle form. Yet she still lacked sufficiently solid evidence for a confrontation. Everything remained at the level of inference and observation. If she voiced suspicion openly at this stage, the press would seize upon it, public opinion would divide, and the royal family, already under strain, would be further shaken. Anne was not one to risk the stability of the institution lightly. Therefore, she chose the quiet path. She told no one except a very few of her most trusted people. And even to them she spoke only what was necessary enough for them to understand that absolute silence must be maintained. Within her, the feeling was of patience mixed with anxiety. Anne loved the royal family in a practical, unsentimental way. She wished to protect the independence of the next generation, to give William space to build the future, according to his own lights, free from improper influence. During those days, Anne continued to gather information piece by piece. She followed the schedules of document transfers, noted brief exchanges between aides, and listened to the small conversations in the corridors. She felt the weight of responsibility. This was no longer merely a matter of administrative procedure. It was a quiet contest for influence in which the victor would shape the way the royal family operated for years to come. She resolved to investigate more thoroughly, with greater patience, avoiding any disturbance at all costs. Within the royal family, deliberate silence is sometimes the strongest step of all. And Anne was prepared to maintain that silence until the evidence was clear enough to act. Several months earlier, on a quiet afternoon in the palace, Queen Camilla sat alone with thoughts that were far from comfortable. She had observed long enough to recognize a clear trend. Prince William was increasingly showing a desire to build a future reign marked by his own imprint, less dependent on the generation of King Charles. Discussions of ceremony, of approaches to the public, of maintaining the image of the monarchy, all carried a more independent color. That meant Camilla's influence, consolidated after many years of attachment and endurance, could diminish rapidly. She was not a woman who easily accepted the loss of a position she had spent a long journey to obtain. Her feelings then were of cold determination, mixed with a deep unease. Camilla understood clearly that if she did not act early, she would gradually be pushed outside the circle of influence, reduced to a figure of purely ceremonial role. Rather than demand an official title or formal authority, something that could easily provoke a reverse reaction, Camilla chose a more skillful and discreet method. She suggested to her close aides that her office be brought into discussions relating to William's long-term plans under the name of supporting the king. In a private conversation with a trusted assistant, Camilla's voice was gentle yet carried clear weight. King Charles has always wished to be kept informed of important matters. I am here to help him follow them so that nothing becomes fragmented. The aide nodded, a little hesitant. Ma'am, should we then include Your Majesty's office in every round of discussion concerning Prince William's plans? Camilla looked at him, a very slight smile. There is no need to state it too clearly. Simply ensure that the important papers do not bypass this step.
The words were not a command, yet enough for the listener to understand that her office needed to be brought into the process. Camilla never said outright that every document concerning William's future must pass through her hands. She merely hinted gently, repeatedly in different circumstances. Those remarks gradually led certain members of staff to take it as a matter of course that routing documents through Camilla's office was a necessary procedure. Little by little, her participation moved from support to intervention. Files began to be sent through her office before reaching William. Small amendments appeared enough to increase the weight of her views without attracting excessive notice. Camilla watched the process with quiet satisfaction. She believed that if this method became custom, William would find it very difficult to exclude her without causing internal conflict. That conflict, once it spilled outside, would be seen by the public as family division, and no one wished to be the one who initiated it. During those months, Camilla maintained a moderate exterior. She continued to appear beside King Charles in the traditional supportive role, revealing no sign of ambition. Inwardly, however, she followed every advance of the plans. Camilla had come a long way, enduring much criticism and pressure to reach her present position. She did not wish to see it dissolve, simply because the younger generation desired independence. In her heart, she persuaded herself that she was protecting the stability of the royal family, even if the method was somewhat opaque. If William were left entirely free, changes might occur too rapidly, causing the institution to lose the continuity it required. That was the reason she trusted her approach. As time went on, the habit of sending documents through Camilla's office became increasingly natural to many members of staff. They no longer asked questions. They simply followed what had become the default. She believed that by the time William noticed, it would already be too late to reverse. The contest for influence had begun very early, silently, and without noise, yet its consequences would shape the way the royal family operated for years ahead. As the clues grew clearer, Princess Anne decided she could no longer keep everything within the scope of solitary observation. She arranged a private conversation with Prince William, choosing the most discreet time and place possible, away from any unnecessary eyes. The meeting took place in a quiet room, with no third person present and no official record. William listened to his aunt, his expression growing steadily more serious as Anne recounted what she had discovered about the chain of amendments and the way documents were being transferred. He was not entirely surprised. After a moment of silence, he admitted, "I have wondered about it for some time. There were several changes I never requested, but I assumed they had perhaps been approved by my father." Anne shook her head slightly, her gaze unwavering. "It is not as simple as that. There is purpose in each step, and that purpose is creating a dangerous precedent. If left too long, it will be very difficult to reverse." William looked at her, his voice lower. "So what do you think we should do at this moment?" Anne replied briefly, "Do not react hastily. We need to cross-check clearly first." The two of them did not act at once. They understood well that any precipitate move could place the royal family at a disadvantage, particularly when public opinion was already sensitive to any sign of internal disagreement. Instead, they chose to compare versions of the documents from recent weeks, noting points of origin, the timing of changes, and the intermediaries who appeared in the transmission chain. The work required patience and absolute discretion. Anne and William examined the important files themselves, involving only a very few of the most trusted aides and requiring them to maintain complete silence. There were no large meetings, no formal announcements. Everything took place quietly, as though it were ordinary daily business. The results gradually became clear. After many days of comparison, several significant amendments appeared, after the papers had passed through a small group connected with Camilla's office. Not every document yet with sufficient regularity and system to rule out coincidence or ordinary error. The changes were not large enough to attract immediate notice, yet enough to tilt certain proposals in a direction favorable to Camilla's role. Anne and William sat opposite each other after the final review. During the process of comparison, a middle-ranking aide admitted in a closed and rather nervous conversation that he had once received a verbal instruction to route documents through the Queen's office before sending them to William. He spoke in a trembling voice, his eyes avoiding theirs. I was told it was to ensure continuity, so that King Charles would be fully informed. I did not think further at the time. I simply did what was asked. Anne looked at him directly. From whom did that instruction come? The aide hesitated. From Queen Camilla's office, ma'am. I never met the Queen herself, but the pressure was clear. William interjected, his voice low. Were you asked to keep silent about this? The man nodded slightly. Not stated outright, but enough for me to understand that I should not ask further questions. Anne and William exchanged a glance. The evidence was still not sufficient to conclude with certainty that the direction came directly from Camilla. Yet it was enough that it could not be ignored. The sequence of events had taken clear shape, a process skillfully designed to expand influence without leaving obvious traces, while at the same time creating a protective layer for the person behind it. They agreed to continue gathering more with still greater patience. Anne felt her vigilance increase day by day. She knew the other side might already have begun to notice the scrutiny, and the response would not be slow. William carried within him a mixture of disappointment and resolve. He wished to preserve a family harmony, yet he could not allow his future to be shaped by improper calculations. The quiet investigation continued in the days that followed, step by step, without noise, yet each new clue made the picture sharper. Within the royal family, the truth rarely appears suddenly. It is pieced together from small fragments, and Anne and William were patiently assembling those fragments, ready to face whatever reaction might come from the other side. When news of Princess Anne's investigation reached Queen Camilla, she did not panic. Camilla had weathered enough storms to know that calm is the strongest weapon in such moments. She acted swiftly and discreetly. First, Camilla met in secret with the aide who had received the verbal instruction about routing documents. The meeting took place in a private space with no third person present. Camilla's voice was gentle, yet carried unmistakable weight. If anyone asks again, remember that it was merely a misunderstanding of procedure. Your position within the royal household depends upon loyalty and the ability to keep silence. The aide remained silent, feeling the pressure clearly. Camilla did not threaten directly with harsh words, yet she implied enough for him to understand that any fault could be laid at his door. She knew that if the chain of events were clarified, the influence she had worked so hard to build would dissolve into nothing. After that meeting, Camilla did not stop. She told a close advisor that Anne was attempting to exclude her from royal business, even opposing the wishes of King Charles. Her words were carefully chosen enough to create the image of a woman under attack from internal jealousy. Not long afterwards, similar information began to leak through unofficial channels. Whispers started to circulate within the narrow circles of the palace and gradually found their way outside. Anne began to be seen as the one causing family division, as someone seeking to isolate the queen for personal reasons. Certain remarks appeared about a deep disagreement between the sisters-in-law about Anne interfering excessively in matters outside her authority. Camilla observed the reaction with quiet satisfaction. She understood the power of internal opinion. Once Anne's image was colored negatively, every investigation she undertook would become far more difficult. Camilla went further still. She urged King Charles to require Anne to stop the examination. In a private conversation with her husband, she spoke in a tone of feigned anxiety. Anne is making everything unnecessarily tense. If it continues, the royal family will be placed at a disadvantage.
King Charles listened, his expression heavy. He had never liked internal conflict, and his wife's words were enough to make him consider the matter. Camilla hoped to halt the investigation before William grasped the whole of it. If Charles ordered a stop, Anne would be forced to step back, and every clue would be buried. Camilla's feelings then were of high determination mixed with anxiety. She knew time was not on her side. Each day, Anne continued to dig. The risk of exposure grew greater. Yet there was one thing she had never anticipated. The aide, after long nights of reflection, decided he did not wish to become the person made to bear the responsibility. He felt himself being pushed into an impossible position. If he continued to deny, he might be drawn into a larger whirlpool. If he told the truth, he faced the risk of losing his place. In the end, the fear of being sacrificed proved greater than the fear of retaliation. He found a way to meet Prince William privately and recounted everything from the original verbal instruction to the later pressure to deny it. His voice trembled, yet was clear. "I do not wish to become the one pushed forward to take the blame." Everything began with the request to root the documents and then the reminder to remain silent. William listened, his face hardening. The information arrived at precisely the right moment, enough to change the entire situation. Camilla had counterattacked strongly, yet that very step had inadvertently created the largest crack in her plan. Prince William listened as the aide recounted the whole affair, his expression hardening with each sentence. The man confirmed clearly that he had been required to send documents through Camilla's office before they reached William, and afterwards had been pressed to deny everything if questioned. The account was not speculative. It was specific, timed, contextualized, and sufficient to remove any remaining doubt. Prince William said little. He simply thanked the aide for his honesty and immediately informed Princess Anne. The two of them exchanged brief words and agreed on a single principle: no public scandal, no invitation to the press, no transformation of an internal matter into a crisis of public opinion. They requested a closed meeting with King Charles and Queen Camilla. The meeting took place in an atmosphere so tense it was almost tangible. There was no secretary, no official record, only the four of them in the room. Anne, in a calm yet firm voice, set out the entire sequence of events. She pointed out that Camilla had not only sought to insert herself deeply into the plans for William's future, but had also placed pressure on staff and attempted to cast Anne as someone opposing the king. "This is no longer a matter of procedure," Anne said, looking straight ahead. "This is the use of influence to create a lasting role without consensus, and then an attempt to silence those who might reveal the truth." Camilla at first denied it, her voice angry and carrying a note of injured innocence. "This is merely a misunderstanding. I only wish to support to ensure continuity. Anne is exaggerating everything for personal reasons." Anne did not yield. If it were only a misunderstanding, why the pressure to force others to deny it? Camilla was about to reply. But the direct confirmation of the aide, who was summoned into the room and repeated his account once more before them all, made it impossible for her to continue claiming simple error. He stood there, his voice trembling, yet clear, recounting every detail from the original verbal instruction to the later pressure to remain silent. "I was asked to send the documents through the Queen's office first," he said. "Afterwards, I was reminded to forget the matter if anyone asked." King Charles listened, his face heavy and weary. He looked at his wife, then at his sister and his son. The silence in the room stretched until it became almost unbearable. At last, his decision was delivered clearly, leaving no room for further argument. From today, Camilla is no longer to take part in matters relating to the future reign of William without the direct consent of William himself. There were no harsh words, no public accusation. Yet the decision cut away most of the influence Camilla had sought to build over many months. He did not wish to see the family divided, but neither could he overlook the misuse of process. Anne claimed no open victory. She left the meeting with a composed expression, revealing nothing outwardly. Inwardly, she felt a mixture of relief and weariness. The responsibility had been discharged, yet the price of stability was always silence and restraint. William thanked his aunt, briefly, his voice low yet sincere. "Thank you for intervening in time." As for Camilla, she remained silent.
She did not accept it yet. There was nothing more she could do. There were no tears, no sudden outburst. Only a cold acceptance that the contest for influence had ended to her disadvantage. From that day, the power of decision shifted more clearly towards William and the coming generation. Documents relating to long-term plans no longer passed through Camilla's office as a matter of habit. The process was tightened. The participation of anyone required clear consensus. Outwardly, the royal family continued to function as though nothing had occurred, yet a boundary had been drawn, discreet yet firm. Princess Anne returned to her ordinary duties and did not mention the past again. She knew that within the royal family, true victory does not lie in defeating an opponent publicly, but in protecting the order and the interests of those who will carry the future. In your view, was Princess Anne right to investigate quietly and prevent Camilla from intervening more deeply in the plans for Prince William's future? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy.